Noting the repercussions of Trump's pledge of new tariffs on Chinese goods, some prominent figures in the local business community say measures have been taken to cushion the blow. According to the General Administration of Customs of China, the total trade between China and the United States topped $664 billion last year. China's exports to the U.S. accounted for $500 billion. Should the U.S. slap more tariffs on China, it is expected Hong Kong's entrepot trade or re-export business will suffer direct blows. Gearing up for that, Hong Kong's business sector said they have prepared response measures. Lo Kan Wing, president of the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong, said a sizable portion of their market still hails from European and American countries. Lo said while there are bound to be adverse impacts from such punitive measures, they have been actively exploring emerging markets. And they will put more efforts in tapping the business opportunities in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and even Africa. The Hong Kong Trade Development Council said the SAR should leverage the mainland market to attract capital. The council's chairman Peter Lam said Hong Kong could serve as a base to woo foreign investors to see the potential of the world's second largest market, China, which boasts a population of 1.4 billion. Lam added the tug of war in trade could hurt the U.S. as well, noting tariffs could lead to inflation there. Hong Kong's top court upheld earlier rulings that favored subsidized housing benefits and equal inheritance rights for same-sex married couples, marking a landmark victory for the city's LGBTQ+ community. The court ruled that discrimination against these couples under the relevant policies is unconstitutional. Speaking to the press after his legal victory, one of the judicial review applicants, Nick Infinger, said the decision was an important step forward for same-sex couples in Hong Kong.
This is not only fight for me and for my partner, but this is fighting for all the people, all the same-sex couples in Hong Kong.
The Court of Final Appeal ruling involved two pairs of same-sex couples who registered their marriages overseas. One of the cases involved the city's housing authority declining to consider an application by permanent resident Nick Infinger to rent a public housing unit with his husband as ordinary families. Last year, the High Court ruled the government lost its judicial review, saying that its housing policy and the intestate estates ordinance were discriminatory, unconstitutional, and unlawful. The Housing Authority and the Department of Justice appealed against these decisions. In one case, Henry Lee was unable to legally live in his spouse Edgar Ng's home ownership scheme flat as a family member because their marriage in Britain was not recognized in Hong Kong. Ng died without leaving a will. Unable to inherit the flat, Lee applied for a judicial review. The court ruled in favor of Lee, finding the housing authority's differential treatment amounted to unlawful discrimination. And the exclusionary policy could effectively deprive the couple of any realistic opportunity to share family life under the same roof. The Court of Final Appeal ruled that a valid same-sex marriage overseas is a public commitment and goes beyond pure cohabitation and is no different from heterosexual marriage. The Department of Justice said the definition of valid marriage should be consistent with the matrimonial legislation. The court also rejected that. The court also rejected the DOJ's suggestion that only opposite-sex couples have the responsibility to provide for each other during their lifetimes. The 5 judges unanimously dismissed the appeal lodged by the Housing Authority and the DOJ. The Housing Authority said in a statement it respects the court's decisions, adding it will study the judgments and seek legal advice, if necessary, on follow-up actions.
These decisions once again made it very clear that discrimination and differential treatment on the grounds of sexual orientation, they are a violation of human dignity and equality. We hope that these decisions will bring Henry some closure, and obviously we hope that Edgar can rest in peace.
The government has unveiled the blueprint for its arts and culture and creative industries development program. The document states that authorities will follow 4 strategic directions and implement 71 measures in a bid to promote and develop relevant sectors. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Kevin Yeung was joined by representatives from the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority and Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts this afternoon in unveiling the blueprint for the city's arts and cultural development scheme. The document listed 4 strategic directions that authorities would take in achieving its goal: the promotion of traditional Chinese culture, development of diverse arts and cultural industries, establishing international platforms for East meets West exchanges, and enhancing the ecosystem for relevant industries. Authorities also plan to expand the arts and culture economy to $200 billion in 2034 and increase the number of individuals engaged in the sector from around 220,000 up to 260,000. When asked whether geopolitical tensions have resulted in Hong Kong pivoting away from the West in cross-cultural exchange programs, lawmaker Kenneth Falk disagreed, but noted the city should seek to strengthen ties with Belt and Road members.
I think in terms of international exchange, the so-called traditional areas such as Americas and Europe remains very important stakeholders and partners, because as you know, these countries, they have a long history in developing different fields in culture and art. I think it's important also to, on top of that, have a strategy to engage with, say, Middle East and Belt and Road, because we do see these countries are up and coming.
As part of the government's realization of its arts, cultural, and creative industries development goals, authorities have announced a list of promotional targets to be launched next year. They include the creation of a Cultural Heritage Month celebrating Lingnan culture, as well as further funding for films promoting traditional Chinese culture. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
U.S. President Joe Biden and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron are expected to announce a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel. Israel's cabinet will meet to approve the deal today. David Garrett reports.
The strongest hint of an imminent Israel-Hezbollah agreement came from Israel's UN ambassador, who says his country will reserve the right to strike if attacked again.
We are moving towards a ceasefire with Lebanon. However, at the same time, Hezbollah launched over 500 rockets at millions of Israeli citizens just 24 hours ago, over the last weekend. 500 rockets rained down on innocent families, schools, and homes, leaving millions of civilians scrambling for shelter.
With the deal apparently close, Israeli airstrikes on Hezbollah targets across Lebanon continued, with more than 30 people killed. Viewed from inside Israel, southern Lebanon has suffered severe damage, with buildings reduced to piles of rubble. In the likely ceasefire deal, the Lebanese army, with UN assistance, will keep peace along the border, with the warring sides expected to withdraw. US President Joe Biden on his way back to Washington saying nothing. He's expected to speak along with French President Emmanuel Macron. Lebanon gained independence from France in the 1940s, but the countries have good relations. A US spokesperson was guarded. He did talk about the possibility, but said it was not done yet.
To get this ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah so that the rockets and the missiles stop and so that people can start moving back to their homes and restarting their lives along that blue line. And we are actively involved in trying to bring that about, but nothing is negotiated until everything is negotiated.
In Lebanon, there is no excuses for a ceasefire. On the proposal agreement brokered by the US and France, Israel has all security concerns. There is not an excuse for not implementing a ceasefire. Otherwise, Lebanon will fall apart.
As the White House tree arrived a month before Christmas Day, the president hopes there is goodwill and the proposed 60-day truce will hold through the festive period and beyond. David Garrett, TVB News.
Traumatized and exhausted survivors of an Egyptian shipwreck arrived back on dry land, lucky to be alive. 3 bodies have been recovered, with 13 now missing after a tourist yacht sank in rough seas. 28 people were saved, including 2 Chinese tourists. They received treatment on a rescue boat. The government of the Red Sea region says 31 tourists of various nationalities were on board, along with 13 crew members. Survivors arrived covered in blankets. They were on a 5-day diving trip. The boat, Sea Story, can hold 36 passengers. After the Russian-Ukraine war unfolded, many Western restaurants have pulled out of the Russian market. Many of them were taken over by Russian business magnates and reopened for business. TV News was in Kazan, Russia, and asked how the locals think about the rebranding. This Russian fast food chain Vkusnoye Tochka, or Tasty and That's It, based mostly in former McDonald's restaurants, which were mostly sold to Russian business magnate Alexander Govor. They reopened in 2022 after the American brand's withdrawal from Russia. Keeping the equipment and operations of McDonald's, the Russian fast food chain retains also the menu, largely consisting of rebranded items from the Golden Arches. But the ingredient sourcing and production have been undertaken locally. In lockstep, another American fast food chain, KFC, sold its franchise in the same year to a Russian company, which reopened under a new name. Stars Coffee, Russia's version of American coffee chain Starbucks, was also unveiled amid the Western corporate exodus. This exchange student in Russia said many items suit the local palate. For example, instead of chicken rolls, they offer shrimp rolls with better ice cream too.
I feel good, I think, for this situation because Russian can use their products, use their banks, use their brands, and people also support their brands. So it's too useful for government, for Russian society, and for people as well.
Chen Xinxin, director of the Hong Kong Chinese Academy of Sciences, said it's these Russian corporate business decision to Russify the menus and operation while keeping the physical stores of the Western brands. After all, they need to balance the books. Some analysts also noted that the brand localization can help step up Russia's effectiveness in managing and improving its economy. Hong Kong Customs reminds the public to stop using two models of external power banks over the potential thermal burn injury. Prohibition notices were also served banning the sale of the two products that are suspected to be unsafe. That comes after customs officers conducted spot checks and purchased 9 models of external power banks for safety testing. Results revealed 2 models failed the thermal burn injury test. That's when an object is placed between the power bank and a device being charged while using the wireless charging function. Both chargers are manufactured in the mainland, priced at $150 to $170. Customs officers seized 437 chargers from 2 retail shops and a wholesaler. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.